Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Hey, what is up, Conroe? This is Rick TRC. You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KZZWLP Conroe and 106.1 on KZCCLP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Toast of the Town with Chrissy and Mel, and we are excited. We have lots of good things here today. First of all, I hope any of you who saw the artwork appreciated all the beautiful daisies and the spring flowers.
Oh, no. I was like, boy,
Facebook.
that looks awfully chipper.
Well, I was just trying. It was cold. I was cold while I was doing
need a little injection of springtime, which is a good thing. And it's been an interesting couple of weeks, so we need a little brightness and sunshine.
It has.
But we are here, and if you have not been outside yet today, it is an absolutely gorgeous day here in downtown Conroe, and we're excited to be here in Conroe Tower in the new Lone Star Community Radio studios.
Beautiful.
State of the art.
They're not quite done.
No.
But they are state of the art.
Just going to get better. And so we're excited to be here and to be joined by our friend, Miss Holly Arbuckle.
Holly Arbuckle.
I know. She's like, she's like the third wheel to our wheelbarrow.
Oh, that's a
I like it.
Really good.
No, I'm used to being the fifth wheel or the third wheel. Been single for 100 years. So.
Well, and that works.
But that's a little different. Yeah, definitely.
But it's a gorgeous day, and we have lots to talk about. And Holly's going to catch us up on some things that are going on, and we're going to talk about some of the interesting results to come out of election time last week, because there's still lots to talk about. Still lots that we're looking into. But before we get started, we have some cool events that are coming up here in the area that we want to touch on and make sure everybody knows about. Number one, the Conroe Area Chamber of Commerce is having their morning mingle tomorrow morning. I believe it starts at 7:30. It's over at McKenzie's. If you're looking for a place to come and get to know some other people, meet some other small businesses, come and check it out. It's a lot of fun, always a good time. You can go to conroe.org and get all the details for that. Also, Ducks Unlimited, their Conroe area banquet, is going on tomorrow night out at the Montgomery County Fairgrounds, so make sure and put that on your calendar. Also going on is the Montgomery County Veterans Memorial Park is hosting a stand with in solidarity with Ukraine. That is tomorrow at 11 o'clock, so if you would like to come and show up, no doubt there'll be some great speakers there rallying around this crazy time that we're living through. Saturday, we have the VFW Post 4709. Our good friends over there are hosting their St. Patrick's Day chili cook-off starting at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I would be there, except I'm going to be headed south to the Parker Mccollum concert at Rodeo Houston.
Now you're just bragging.
I am so excited. I can't hardly stand myself. But yeah, so Parker Mccollum, Conroe Homeboy, if y'all have not seen on the bazillion Facebook posts that I've seen, that Parker just won the ACM Award for Best New Male Country Artist. And he gave a great little shout out to his hometown of Conroe, Texas. So it was very cool, very cool. So always good to see our local guys doing great things, especially after Cody Johnson just sold out the opening night of Houston Rodeo.
It's been
only
awesome.
the third time in history that's ever happened on opening night, which puts him in the same rankings with Garth Brooks and George Strait. It's pretty amazing.
Wow.
And then kind of on the horizon, we have the Greater Conroe Arts Festival going on March 19th, which is a week from this Saturday. It's going on from 10 to 5. Lots of cool stuff going on. And then, of course, we have the Montgomery County Fair and Rodeo that starts on March 25th.
Hey, can I go back to the arts thing?
Yes.
So I think they're going to have those sidewalk painters that do that 3D sidewalk stuff.
That stuff is so
It's super cool. So I think that was one of the things that Frank was working on. So I'm hoping that came to because that's so awesome when they paint.
Okay, pressure's on, Frank.
That's right.
Well, and they always bring such cool art, like varied arts.
Right.
Whenever they do the arts festival. So it's great to have it back here in downtown Conroe. And plus, you can come, swing by the arts festival, grab a glass of wine at Blue Epiphany, or stop in for lunch, or a fantastic old-fashioned at 202 Main, or swing by Pacific Yard House, or go by Foss, or go by the Meadery.
There's so
Firm.
many
There's
places.
So many great
Isn't
things
it
to
cool?
stop. So many great places to stop here in downtown Conroe now. And then, of course, we have Montgomery County Fair and Rodeo coming up starting on March 25th, running through April 2nd. It always opens up with rodeo and closes up with cook-off. And boy, oh boy, is it going to be a good week. So that's it.
That's exciting.
Yes.
And I feel like you probably just scratched the surface.
I did.
Really out there.
Because I knew that we were going to be talking about all kinds of things today.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Well, I have, as you well know, because, we work together, but I have been going through all of the numbers and crunching all of the numbers from the campaign. Crunching. You have to ingest them. You have
Yeah, I
to mull
got
it
'em.
over and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, and I just keep seeing new little things, new little trends, Anyway, so we have a lot to talk about today.
we do. And one of the big things I think that people are paying attention to that's actually bigger than just Harris County south of us is the craziness of these missing ballots that popped up in Harris County. For those of you that don't know, the Harris County election administrator, Miss Isabella Longoria, has now said that she is going to resign effective on July 1st as a result of this craziness and the GOP lawsuit that came about. And, and I've been watching, even watching on Election Day. Did y'all see her press conference that they did on Election Day?
No.
Okay. So they come out that morning.
I walked through.
Yeah.
I knew it was going on, but that's it.
She comes on that morning and says, "Hey, we're not gonna meet the time limit. There's no way we're gonna make it." And maybe this was the day after. I guess it was the day after.
No, it was. She
The
said
morning of.
before
Before
the polls even closed
Yeah.
that she wasn't
We're
going
gonna
to
be
make
ready.
the
And
24-hour deadline.
And it's like, if you know that that's going to be the situation, you think you might kind of jump ahead. But I was looking at it, and part of the things that she blames it on is they got this new machine. And the new machine, you go through and you cast your ballot, and then it gives you a printout, and then they have to feed this printout through like a Scantron kind of machine, right? And they were saying that the process took a lot longer than what they were expecting. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Two-step process, and as I'm sure Holly can attest to, it's always a challenge to find election day workers to come in and do that work. But it was just really crazy, and to have that go on and miss the deadline, and then all of a sudden have 10,000 votes that are just somewhere missing.
Yeah.
So, are you familiar with these machines? I know you've
I
worked.
am. We have them up there.
in
Yeah,
Walker
go ahead.
County?
I'm not.
I would say yes, you have to, but once you check it off, if you do it the old-fashioned way where you have a pencil and a Scantron, kind of thing, you do it and then you walk over to the machine and
Feed it
Feed it
through.
in. So no hanging chads.
no hanging chats. But here's the thing, it's no different than marking it with a pencil. Instead of marking it with a pencil, you have one machine at every chair.
And it prints it out.
And you punch, you answer the question. It's a computer.
Mm-hmm.
You answer the question, and then you hit done, and it prints it out. There's really no difference. There's
Well-
no time difference unless they don't have enough machines for people to sit at. But
Well, the thing though is, do the people have any, do you take anything with you when you leave in this new system?
not when you leave the room, but when you leave your chair.
Your booth.
Yeah.
You see,
You go. You look at it, and it says who you
So
voted
you
for.
verify.
Right.
Uh-huh.
You can verify as you're walking over to the thing, and nobody touches it. You feed it into the machine, just like if you had penciled it. Remember the big,
Yeah. But
feed it in.
from my memory, but when we changed over to the electronic ones in Montgomery County,
Right.
everybody was freaking out. I want a record of my vote. Well,
Yeah.
you never get a record of your vote.
Right.
But
Well, and why
with
would
this
you want a
system,
printout?
you can see it
Right.
Yes.
before you
can.
feed it in.
You can.
but it's the thing that you filled out anyway. So it isn't coming. I don't know. I don't get that.
I don't either because, I know whenever we go and we cast our ballots here in Montgomery County, it's all computerized. And at the very end, after you go through and cast all your votes, it gives you the screen where you can verify what you voted for. And it seems like, number one, that eliminates the step of having to print it out and feed it into something. But number two, I mean, look, anybody that's used a printer or a copier or gone through a car wash knows that things don't always feed in like you expect it to. And so
I think that was what was happening. They were saying they were having to bump the machine to get it to accept it.
Jamming.
To grab it.
And that's possible. I just never saw
So
any
is
of that
this like
happen.
a new, I mean, they said
Yes,
this is a new
these are
system.
new.
So what were they using before?
A number 2 pencil. And in Harris County, I
Yeah.
don't know. In Walker County, but we've had them for like 4 or 6 years. I can't remember. But it's
It's a
I think
good
we've had 'em
system,
for
I
4
think. I mean,
It
I
is-
think
it
people are
is.
saying,
It
and I
is.
do think that, I think one of the things, and I'm going to be the voice of reason here, which
Okay.
is unusual for me, but just the sheer magnitude
Yeah.
of
Their
what
life.
what they have to do
Yes.
compared to what we have to do, is just, it's amazing it gets done at all. I mean,
Yeah,
it just, the
2,000
numbers.
square miles. I mean,
Yeah.
to put it in perspective, 2,000
Yeah.
square miles is just ridiculous to
Right.
try to comprehend.
Right.
And the amount of voters that they have coming through. I mean, and then to make it a two-step process, I can
Yes.
imagine that this is a monstrous task. So why go to that kind of system when, like this year, I noticed in Montgomery County Election Central, one of the things they did so well was not only were they able to, we didn't have quite these problems. We have a pretty simple one-step system, but results came out so much earlier this year. So, was there a change in the process that made that happen? Was it more of just having more confidence?
Well,
in what was
one of the
going on?
things that I've never seen early voting come out before 7:30. I thought that was the plan.
7:30 was
7:30
kind of
is
always,
what, but
we
she
always
put it
wanted
out
it
as soon as the polls closed.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I mean,
and honestly,
was-
I thought it was going to come out later because I figured that there were still going to be polls open. I figured there were going
Well,
to be
yeah,
more
but
people
with
there.
early voting,
Right.
that was early voting numbers is all
Yeah.
that came out. But
Yeah.
but I don't know, and I think that we're going to that system. We're going to a new system in Montgomery County, but what I don't understand, what I don't know yet about that, and I should have researched this before today, but because in Harris County, you told me, in Harris County I know, and in Walker County, you can vote anywhere. You can vote at
any day.
just like we have on elections
On election
on
day.
early voting.
Yeah.
You
You
can
do that on
do
election
there
I can drive almost to Madisonville
and still vote
and still
on
vote.
election
I live
day.
on the southeast
Yeah.
side, and I can still.
And that's on election day too, not
On
just
election day
Yes,
too,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
And I believe we will have the capacity to do that because the system we're going to
It's
has
the same,
that.
It's the same
It's the same thing.
situation.
Yeah.
And there
That
are
it
a
pulls
lot
up
of them.
your ballot based on. Yeah.
That's amazing.
and
So will that mean that we can consolidate and not have to
Yes.
have 108
Which would
polling
make life
locations?
a whole lot
well,
easier.
I did have a candidate that we had a candidate that was shocked when he went to put signs out and that voting morning, and there was nobody at the voting because they had closed all the. Now, mind you, they did it 6 years ago.
Yeah,
but
he just didn't know.
He just
Yeah.
didn't know. But the point is that that it's
You don't have to
major
work every
consolidate-
single-
I think they have. I think there's a couple precincts where they have one, and there's a couple precincts where they have two, and then there's one central one. So I don't know how they decided to break it up, but it's much more consolidated, and it happened pretty quick.
And I
Brian
think we
McCray
should
did
do
a
that
good
here.
job.
I mean,
Well, to me, number one, it would require less or fewer people working in those locations, which would make life easier. Obviously, it'd make life easier for candidates because they wouldn't have to find,
right.
Well,
100 people to
I
work
don't know
on
about the
election day.
helpers though, because of the two-step process, they have someone standing
Yeah,
at
at
the
each.
tables,
Right,
Yeah.
but you
and
don't
then they
have to
have
have
somebody standing at the feeders.
but you don't have to have 100 boxes.
Exactly.
But
You
the
know,
thing
so to
is,
say.
you are still going to need to have the boxes are going to need to be bigger. Like
Of
now, where you
course.
set up 4 to 6 machines, you're
Right.
going to set up 10 or 15,
Right.
which is fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't know exactly
but I
what the
love that.
plan's going to be, but I think it would be. I think
Oh,
it'd
I
be
think
fine.
it'd be
Yeah.
much better.
I want there to be more than there are early voting because I don't want there to be lines and that sort of
Right.
thing. But somewhere between 10 and 110 would be a
Would
good
be-
number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny to me to think, looking at early voting numbers and election day numbers, obviously, the bulk of our votes come in during early voting, which makes a lot of sense because you can go everywhere. And then, but it makes you wonder, are people going to trend to still go to early voting, or will it just be one of those things where we're still waiting till election day and we're going to see everybody surge if they can go to every or go to any location?
I don't think so. The reason for that is just the amount of sheer confusion.
And there's a lot
between, why can't I vote here every time? Well, no, I'm sorry, last year you must have voted early. No, I didn't. I always vote on election day. Well, not if you voted here.
Right.
That is so difficult. And I've never been a part of anything in my life that people have a chip on their shoulder more than voting.
Yes.
People walk up,
Agreed.
and if there's anything the least bit different or out of sorts or late or changed, they get their panties in a wad, and they're like, "What are you trying?"
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it upsets me,
Yeah.
because a lot of times I haven't this time, but in the past I've been in there so much, and I tell people all the time, everybody in this room is here because we believe deep in our soul in
Yes.
this system. We are never going to do anything that's going to
Jeopardize that.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
So-
But people do. They feel like you're out to
Messing
get
with
them.
something,
Yeah.
yes.
So to answer your question about the more people going on
Yeah.
election day, no, it's actually gone the other way a little bit. It's not. It's still roughly half and half, but
People
it-
just don't know. They don't. Yeah.
But it's migrated a little toward early voting, and I mean, I don't think it's anything great. I think it's just people are more. They talk more about early voting now. Candidates talk about early voting, Facebook,
Right.
all of the
Right.
social medias. So I don't know that it has anything to do with the voting system. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't think it does either. I don't think it's anything to do with the voting system.
Well, one of the interesting things that I saw, of course, there's this big debate on the elections right now between the parties about, it's being discriminatory with early voting and shutting down I mean, everybody always has something to argue about. But what I thought was interesting is that the Republican Party filed a lawsuit against Harris County elections for violating Texas election code, and then they singled out Longoria specifically for breach of contract for how she administered the election. And the elections office response was, "Oh, it's mostly just exaggerated and misleading statements." And that's a quote. And I don't know if that's the case. I haven't actually read the lawsuit, but it actually was just saying, look, you said you were going to have this done in a timely manner and it didn't happen. And then the lawsuit, which obviously then their county judge came out and said, yeah, there's a problem and I'm going to fire everybody. And then she graciously said, oh, well, I'll leave on July 1st, which was really great. But to me, it's one of those situations where when voter integrity is such a hot topic, is such a buzzword nowadays, is there anything they could have done
Yes.
to prevent this?
I'll tell you what it is.
Okay.
And maybe they did it, and it just wasn't widely
Okay.
talked about. What Walker County did was they spent an entire year opening and closing a module type place where people could come in and practice.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, and I'm sure that's a monster of a task in some place like Harris County. But,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you
And
want...
I don't think it was open all day long. I
Right.
mean, they opened it like
But
several
come
times.
practice and go through the system.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah,
I could
and
see
here's
some
how it
a group
works.
of Republican women or a group of,
Yes.
some group going down there and saying, okay, we're going to stand in line to vote. Let's go through the whole process to help y'all practice.
And work
That
on
would be
all the
cool.
kinks. Yeah.
That'd be a cool thing to do. We should do that
And-
here.
We should.
And
Note to self.
And I will tell you that those of us that are getting up into the fall and winter of
Yes,
our lives,
yes.
We don't handle change as well as young people
Right.
do. And I think that if they brought assisted living centers, if they brought their buses in or their vans or whatever, I think those people would love it because
Yeah,
they
that's
wouldn't
a good
be
idea.
shoved around
Yeah.
by young people and they would get to do their
Right.
anyway. So I'm all for that. And
Right.
when the elections office, I hope they they call somebody
Right.
who's gone through it. Because
Right.
and I'm sure they will
Well,
because they're.
I want to say something about the changes in Harris County and that kind of thing, because I did pretty deep dive on this a few months ago. A lot of the changes that Harris County went through was about COVID. They opened the polls a lot longer. They had overnight voting. They had drive-through voting. They added all kinds of things during COVID, none of which was legal.
Right.
All of which they just did, and nobody stopped them. It's like speeding. If nobody stops you, you can speed. So then the legislature comes in January and makes all these new rules.
Right.
Okay. So what people don't understand is these rules were not. We weren't tugging back our usual voting.
Right.
We were only tugging back what they had added,
Which wasn't even
which
legal.
wasn't even legal in the
Right.
first place.
That's correct.
I saw an ad. This made me so mad I couldn't stand it. Because early voting has always been from noon to 5 on Sunday afternoons. Well, I mean, in Montgomery County, and I think in Harris it was the same.
Right.
They changed it during COVID to 9 to 3 or 9 to 5, something like that.
Right.
And then, after all the rules, everything settled down and the rules came back, they changed it to 11 to 5 on Sundays. And I saw an ad from some Christian coalition that said they're going after church people and limiting our right to vote because they know we're going to be at church and they're making it harder. And I'm like, it's still easier than it ever was before.
Yes.
You've got an extra hour on a
you've got-
Sunday.
and you've got-
And plus, since when did church people want anything to happen before noon on Sunday?
Well, and not only that, but
I couldn't believe it. It was just so indicative
yeah,
of
this cancel culture.
Yes.
but all of the stuff that they're talking about, the Texas legislature all over the country.
Yes.
Texas legislature rolling back vote.
Oh, yes.
No, everything that we did is an addition to
Right,
previous
what
to
was done
2020.
before. That's
Well,
correct.
So it's just completely ridiculous that Texas is getting all of this bad press because we don't have drive-through voting or overnight
Right.
voting, which we've
Hey.
never had.
Hey, we've got big shoulders. We can handle it.
I guess that's true.
Well, but you're exactly right. I mean, with early voting, not only you have lots of days to choose from to vote. You can vote after work because it goes till 7:00 in the
Absolutely.
evening. You can vote before work because the polls open at 7:00 in the morning. So
And you
go to
can
the
get a
one down the
guaranteed
street
2
right
hours.
there, you
You
know.
can get a guaranteed 2 hours off from every employer. you know.
Absolutely. And I guess that's my issue too, is seeing all this bad press and why are the facts being so held back on that?
Well, one thing I will have to say that I think was that social media did good is I think, people say all the time about it's too hard to vote, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it should be difficult to vote, but I don't think it should be that easy. When they started all that stuff about make a plan to vote, I love that because that's great. Okay, I got a hard week this week. I can't do it Tuesday, but Thursday, can I make it between 7? No, let me check. Oh, wait, it's Saturday from 9 to 12? I can do that then.
Right.
You should make a plan to vote.
And do
There's
your
nothing-
research, too.
That's a whole nother situation. But
Yeah.
but they act like
I didn't get
you
as many
can't
calls this
just,
year.
whip off the road and vote on a spur of the moment
Right.
because it's closed and you didn't know it. Well, yeah, you shouldn't
Yeah.
be doing that anyway.
Exactly.
You
should go in prepared, which brings up another topic that maybe we'll talk about, and that is, well, we'll get to that in a minute because I want to talk about absentee votes and absentee ballots this year, because not only was it interesting in Harris County, and I did not break down the Harris County numbers, but we've been doing some work in Jefferson County, and I thought this was a really interesting correlation. So Montgomery County has 391,000 registered voters. Sadly, the turnout was 88,000 votes, which is, obviously could be better. But whenever you start looking at the absentee votes, and I haven't looked, and I didn't break this down by percentage, which would have actually told a better story. But there are about twice as many absentee Republican votes as there were Democrat votes that came
Here?
in Montgomery County.
Okay.
Now, you take a look at Jefferson County, which is a very purple county. They have 147,000 registered voters. They had 29,000 ballots cast, which is pretty terrible. But you look at the difference in their absentee votes, and there's 1,300 absentee Democrat votes versus 147 Republican absentee votes. And there was a significantly higher number of Republican voters that turned out in Jefferson County this time. So what is it with these absentee votes? what's the discrepancy?
So there's two things with the absentee votes.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, it is older people who are requesting a ballot. But what has happened in the last, 10 years, 8 years, is that candidates now get a list of the people over 65, send them a pre-filled out thing that they have to perf off and send it in to request their absentee ballot.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that.
Because it's just a request.
It's
for
a
ballot.
request, and it is helping them to do it.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons why that number has skyrocketed.
Right.
And why people, and let's see, some people think it's shady, and you can look at it like that, but other people think it's assisting people who want to vote and
Right.
making it easier for them.
And don't have maybe
Right.
the means to.
Exactly. And so the candidates, by doing that, are helping them.
Right.
Once they get their ballot from the county, it's not marked in anything. You
Right.
don't know who sent it, asked
Right.
you to send it to
That
them.
is correct.
You may get 3 or 4, and I know from Election Central, they may get 3 or 4 requests from the same person because the lady forgot that she
Had filled it
that
out.
she had filled it out. But absentee voting was much more difficult this year because you had to put your driver's license or the last 4 of your social, and a lot of people didn't. But because there's a long time frame for that purpose, Election Central had time to Miss Johnson, you didn't do this. We're going to send it to you again. Be sure and do it this way this time.
Okay.
Could they do that in Harris County? Doubt
Probably
it.
not.
It's too many people.
Yeah.
But the reason that those early ballots are doing that is I know that a lot of Republicans send that. I don't know if a lot of Democrats do.
Right.
So that may be one of the reasons,
Of the
one of
difference.
the differences is in Harris County.
So I would say that the purpleness, they've historically been blue, okay? The purpleness has come along in recent years. I would say the last 8, it's started to turn. And I don't think that the Republicans are used to or have any familiarity with the
Right,
process.
with that system.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's
It isn't happening as much.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, that's all I was just going to
Well,
say. They just don't have the experience.
A candidate that I worked with this time actually didn't know about that and thought it was shady. And I said, it's not shady and we're doing it. It's in our
Yes.
budget. And, it was like, oh, it's not? I said, no, it's a very common thing to do. You're doing them a favor. It's a great thing to
Right.
do. It's not shady. It's just like a lot of things an opponent can stand up and say, they're out there,
Sending
doing
out
this.
these things.
Right.
Well, and my parents, I come from a family of avid, committed voters, which
Sure.
obviously, put me, kind of trained me throughout my life to be that way. And this year, my parents are getting older in age and, have health issues and, still drive, still get around. But, you've got doctor's visits and you've got other things going on. And they didn't realize that, early voting had ended and they had one day left to vote for Election Day. And then it was, well, where do I go to find out? Well, here I can go to mctx.org/election and I can pull up your what box where you're going to be voting at, and I can send you a sample ballot so you can go through and look through things. And and my parents are somewhat tech savvy, but still struggle with kind of going through and following those chains that we all get accustomed to. And and then they weren't able to vote because they had doctor's appointments and there were lines. Well, then they couldn't park close enough to the building because it was hard to get inside and do those sorts of things. And so I think these absentee ballots, like you were saying, it's such an important part of the election process to include the older generations whose votes still should matter.
Yeah, sure.
And to give them an opportunity to vote that otherwise they may not be able to. And so one of the things that I've tried to do is try to tell them, you can register to do it this way. But because of all the conflicting things they've heard in the news, oh, I heard that's not right. Oh, I
Right.
heard that's, and that's
Just
a
as
shame
a
too.
funny aside, do your parents vote together? Is it
Um,
like my parents, my whole life, always went to vote together.
Yes. Yes.
Like my dad would.
It was like a date.
Come and get her
Yeah.
if he was at work, and I mean I remember that. And there's people now still you
They
see
still
that,
do it.
that are like, I'm like, you want to come vote? No, I got to wait for my wife.
Yep.
Did yours parents? I mean,
Oh, yeah,
I mean, it was a
absolutely.
thing of
Yeah.
that was
they
a
still do. They
Yeah.
still
thing they did together,
Yeah.
which is, I think is kind of interesting.
I do too. And I think that has a lot to do with the generational changes too, because, you look at us and we're,
Well,
mature.
Mature.
We're all rather independent too.
Sure.
Yeah.
But and I know kids that were turning 18 this year that had not registered, that turned 18 that were not registered to vote, and I just lost my mind on them. And it's like, why would you not? This is your first time. Like, this is a big deal. And then I know kids that were 17 years old that were out there working voter boxes because
wait,
they wanted
yeah.
to be a part of it. And getting that younger generation engaged and acknowledging the importance of that duty. It's a challenge of every candidate for sure, but definitely for both parties.
I stood in line, I don't know why, somewhere between 1488 and South County was where the voting box was. And it was the biggest deal. And a group of us went together and we stood there and laughed and giggled and carried on. But we voted for, and you probably did too, Ronald Reagan on our first.
Yeah.
And that is so cool that was the first
cool.
vote. I mean, I get
Yeah.
goosebumps
sure.
thinking about it.
Well, I
Anyway,
didn't.
But we
I
made
had a good
we made
friend.
a party date out of it.
I had a good friend last time whose son wanted to vote for Beto, and he called me and said, or I think I was over at his mom's house, and he was like, I haven't voted. And I said, well, you're registered, because I know he was registered.
Right.
I think he was 21 or something. And I said, okay, well, here's what you do. Go up there, and if they say you're not, tell them you want to vote this, and then there's that, and these are the words that you can say. And he walked out of the room. My other friends were like, why are you helping him vote for Beto? And I was like, because if you're voting is a habit.
Yes.
And when you start, I said, I'll work on him later on who to vote for.
Yeah, yeah.
And he starts now, and he votes. It's a
Absolutely.
habit.
Yes.
And it's
Absolutely.
amazing how that can be.
I have a friend that we all know well, and her two kids are about the age of your son. And anyway, she said something about, she says, well, the kids, they're just so liberal. I think they've converted her now. It's the problem.
Right.
But anyway, but she says, they're just so liberal. I said, so what?
Get them out there.
Get them out there. And not only that, but kids are liberal. They think, I remember my parents thinking thought they were crazy because of some of the stuff they said. Now, I turned conservative a lot sooner than a lot of kids. But
And a little more conservative, too.
yeah.
My son doesn't vote, which makes me,
Crazy.
I can't even. We talk about it all the time. We talk about politics. We talk about stuff.
Oh, my
But,
gosh.
yeah. I mean, he voted in Montgomery County when, I could control him. But
Right.
and then a couple of times he would come home from college. But a lot of it is he didn't want me to tell him how to vote. And so I was real careful about that. But he's lived in Nashville now, 6 years, and he's never even registered, I don't think.
See, and it's funny because and
Makes me sad.
And my kids, Katie's gonna be the one that I'm gonna have to be like sticking a fork in her to go. Jackson will be like, yeah, I'm gonna go, and this is what I'm gonna vote for and do his thing, because he's kind of gotten into that bug a little bit with me. But I worked my first campaign that I ever worked on was Mike Medder's first run for commissioner, which was a few years back.
Yeah.
106.
And I went to Republican National Convention for Bush Senior, and all of that before I could vote. I didn't get to vote until I'd already was about to move to College Station. So, is when I came of age to vote.
Right.
But but it's amazing the difference in the mentality, and honestly, in my personal opinion, I think females are probably more likely to vote than males. I don't know why that is, but I can talk to any number of girlfriends, and they're like, absolutely, won't miss it, gonna put signs up, gonna do my thing. And then most of the guys are like, I say most. No, we're just going right on through. Do we need a break?
No, I just
But I think it's funny because going into like with us being so
Involved.
is that the word? Involved, not crazy.
obsessed.
Obsessed. Yeah, that's where I was headed.
And then to, of course, have rebellious kids that are like, nah.
Well, my parenting style is just don't push it.
Yeah.
I've laid the
Catch when it
groundwork.
catches.
It'll be here,
Yeah.
but it's time.
So going into that, as a result of this most recent election, we have a runoff election coming up. And then, of course, we have municipal elections coming up. And then we go into, and then there may be runoff races in that. And then we go to November. So
there
how?
are no runoff races in municipal elections.
Okay. So, but think
What?
about how many.
It's a top vote getter no matter what?
I believe so.
No,
No?
no.
I was thinking there have been runoffs.
There have been runoffs this most recent city
Yeah.
election. Yeah,
So,
there'll be runoffs.
so how much
I don't know what the
of
date is, but
how much voter exhaustion is involved whenever you've got things like that? Because we
Well-
look here, you know, at the city of Conroe, and they don't do with unified voting days or whatever cycles. So we have a separate time, and we're going to have
You're
like
right.
a lot of times to go vote.
Well, yes, and I think, I don't know, I give so much credit to social media for a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because it's constant and it's inexpensive for people to advertise and promote.
If
And
you can
so-
get Facebook to cooperate with
Yeah,
you, which
yeah,
is a
which
totally
is
different
a
topic.
whole nother. Yeah.
But anyway, I think that's part of it. I think this particular cycle, we got down to where we didn't have many candidates for a couple of cycles. We didn't have a ton of candidates, but it seems like we've had a bunch of them lately, and that, you know, you get 3 or 4 you have runoffs, 3 or 4 in a race, and you have runoffs. So I think that has to do with it, and I also think that that the Democrats and the Republicans here are a little more active with each other than they were for a while. So I think that has something to do with it too. But yes, I think voter fatigue has a lot to do with it. In fact, you know, I have friends that have nothing to do with politics, and they'll go, can you go out to dinner with us, or are you in the middle of something? I know you're in some campaign, and you know, it can be an off year, and it's
Right.
August, you know,
Yeah.
nobody knows anyway, but it's constant.
So what is, I mean, obviously there are some voting cycles where things can coincide a little bit easier. I think the city of Conroe is actually contracting out election
Well,
central, right?
there's
this time?
state sanctioned election days, and you have to, no matter what you're doing, you have to pick one of those days.
Okay.
But typically, partisan elections have always been separate from municipal elections, and they still are. So,
Because municipal elections are nonpartisan.
right. And because in March, in the primaries, the parties actually run the election. Now,
That's
they
correct.
contract it out to the thing, but all of the stuff all the decisions that are made by the actual parties, and they get money from the state to do
actually
that. You know,
and
the cities don't.
And the elections all have judges from both major parties that are present and actually participating in that process, right?
Yes.
Correct.
So,
And that is a decision made locally. We made that decision to consolidate the Republican and the Democrat primaries. It doesn't
Right.
have to be. And I heard rumors that it's not going to be after this year, but I don't know if that's true.
yeah,
That they are not going to necessarily share
the same day.
no, it'll always be the same day,
always the
the same
day.
location,
same
and the same
location.
workers and the same judges and that sort of thing. So
So what do you think is the benefit / hindrances to something like that, to making that change?
I don't think we should make that change. I think that
I don't
should
think
be the
so either.
same.
Yeah.
It should be at the
I
same
think
place.
everybody should go to the same place, and everybody should go in the same room.
Because of
Everybody
what
should-
we've been through with how
Right.
it makes people upset when you
Yes.
change things.
Yes.
And they feel like you're getting over them. You know, I was the election judge when Barack Obama was elected, the primary of that,
Right.
during all of that. And there's an awful story I'll tell you later about me crying, which.
What?
But
I
that,
can't
know.
believe that.
So that whole day was just awful because lots of people who had never voted before and they didn't understand the difference.
Right.
And, you know, we would ask them things and then they would come and say, they voted and this person wasn't on their ballot. And what are you trying to do to me? Well, you chose a Democrat deal. You can't vote for county judge, you know. So there was a lot of that. And then, you know, that night there's the primary, where you go to decide who gets to go to the convention. I can't
Right.
think of the word. And the Democrats had a caucus, which I did not know one single thing about, which in hindsight, I should have done a little research,
Well.
but it wasn't my responsibility.
Right.
But the Democrat judge was gone, cat daddy. And people were saying, we want a caucus. What do we do? And I'm like, I don't know, and I'm not well, where's the paperwork? What do we?
I don't know.
I didn't know anything about it, and my own precinct convention was going on,
Right.
too, and I had to go do that. So it was very confusing because there was just so much additional turnout into a place where no one knew what was going on.
Right.
And so the crying story is that I actually did not vote because I was running my own precinct and I was so busy all day that I never voted. And then when it got time to go to the primary precinct convention, I wasn't allowed to be a delegate because I hadn't voted. And when I discovered that,
Wow.
I cried in front of people I barely knew, which had not a lot to do with that, but it
But
was just the
still,
whole day. It was
yeah.
an extremely difficult day. And I ended up finding out that you could swear fealty to the Republican Party and be allowed to go. And I called Dr. Brooks and he said, honey, don't worry about it. You can go to the convention. I
gonna be
said,
all right.
okay, thank you.
Well, and
As long as you swear fealty to the Republican Party.
Well, and I've got 2 kids that are juniors in high school, going to be seniors in high school. And,
They're both going to pass this year? They're going to make it to their senior?
They
Okay.
better,
Yeah.
otherwise they won't
It won't
live.
matter.
It-
Yeah,
It
right.
won't matter. But, and it's one of the, you see all these funny things, and I love reading great memes on Facebook and so forth. But, it really does come down to the point where why aren't we teaching that as a core class in high school before these kids become legal age to vote, and tell them that this is what's going on and these are your opportunities and this is what you can do. Because honestly, this is the truth. Teenagers are going to complain about the novels that are chosen in their literature
Right.
classes. They're going to complain about never having to use calculus in their day-to-day lives. Why don't we teach something that's actually tangible that means
Now,
something?
wait, I am a product of Chris Katner's civics class, and sister, I'm going to tell you, I knew the whole system when I was out. I knew the primaries, I knew the general, I knew the Democrat or
But that was
Republican.
years ago.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now that I've got 2
years
kids
later,
That aren't
you're-
using that.
and they're not learning that.
Right.
And and for their age and their life
They
experience,
should be, yeah.
They I would say
They're ready.
more knowledgeable than some,
Right.
and than most of kids their age as far as how it works and what you do. But good gracious, they still don't understand any of this. What is the primary? What? And then we got the general. Huh? I don't understand. And then we got city. And then what? And then there's runoff. And how do we?
I don't know why you're talking about
That's a lot.
kids. 98%
I
of
was
the
just gonna
adults
tell
don't
you-
know that
I know.
either.
I was just going to tell you, they
Yeah.
walk up to you, and people get behind a candidate, and you go to a
And they
a
do not-
you
yeah.
know this.
Yeah.
People go to a
Specifically
meeting
for
and
that.
they go
Yeah.
and they go, what are we doing in November?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when
yeah.
we're running against the Democrat, and in this particular
right.
area, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and again, it's one of those things. People, going to precinct conventions and everything like that, and people are like, "Huh?
Yeah.
What?" And they don't know. And then you get into the, we were talking about undervoting, the other day, and I mentioned that to somebody, and they're like, "What's an undervote?" And it's like, well, it's when people, you may be the only person on the ballot, but you still don't get the vote. Whether it's deliberate or somebody's just saying, well, hey, I'm not knowledgeable enough about the candidate, so I'm just not going to cast a vote, which I think is probably more the case than not. But, there are some people that just don't vote for somebody just because they don't want to vote for somebody, which is okay. It's all right.
Me.
But, yeah.
You make a little statement with your undervoting. I do too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do
yeah, I
too.
do too.
And
I
it's
do
a little
too.
silent protest, but
yeah,
whenever
exactly.
I walk out, I'm like, yeah,
That's right.
yeah, let's go. But,
And remember, that's Walker County, so y'all don't all sit down and try to figure it out. It ain't happening.
but it really is interesting to me, though, that we don't get this process embedded, especially with the kids now. I mean, we see what's going on over in the Ukraine, and one of the most poignant things that I've heard on the news, other than just, the whole facts of everything that are going on, is one of the reporters said a couple of days ago, these people were living very first world lives.
That's I heard that exact same. Yeah.
And it's just amazing to me. Obviously, we're in a very different situation than they are there geographically and politically and, everything else. But it seems like, hey, guys, it's time for the bells to start going off and people to start paying attention, that we've got to start teaching these kids what the importance is of voting, how they do it, what is all involved in it, because we definitely don't want them taking that right for granted.
One of my friends just texted me and said that I just admitted I cried in public.
Did you see my post on Facebook?
I did not.
I said, I said some nice things about you.
Crap. When?
Earlier today. And then I said, and like Olaf from Frozen, she loves warm hugs. So make sure you go give her a warm hug today.
Okay.
So if you get random hugs walking down the
That's
sidewalk,
why.
That's why.
Okay.
but anyway, I think it's an important thing that we've got to do. Maybe we start doing some workshops and we like bribe kids with, I don't know, $10 gas cards to come and learn about elections.
Yeah, really.
I know. See? You know how many kids would show up if we told them, hey, there's going to be a drawing for a $100 gas card?
Yeah, really. So they could fill up a half a time.
Exactly. We're gonna buy you a gallon of gas for $45. Come on in.
Exactly.
It's so crazy. Yeah, and let's not even get into to that whole topic.
Oh
but
my gosh, we don't have time.
I know. So what do you have coming up on the horizon?
Just some life changes,
Yeah?
some changes in my general direction, which are weird for me,
Yeah.
but good. I'm going to New York City this week,
Yes.
next week on a little
Exciting.
vacation, which I'm ready for, and
That's it.
good,
I know.
good stuff coming.
And if anybody needs to get their pools prepared for spring break or the summer, now is a really great
It is a
time.
good time.
To
It
get
is a good time.
on to do that with a schedule. And I'm pretty sure you probably know a pool company.
I
that
do.
could-
I do. I know a pool company that I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do about.
Yes.
So we got issues with that.
What's the name of your
Catalyst Pools.
Catalyst?
So what? I had some notes when y'all told me what else I wanted to talk about, but I don't remember what it was.
Well,
It's a little late now, isn't it? I guess. I think one of the things was just kind of 5 minutes.
See?
5 minutes.
I know.
One of the things I was, I don't know, not upset about, but just the sheer volume of the votes in Harris County, and just the changes that have happened, and the way people feel, the emotions behind it. I'm not, I don't know Isabel Longoria from anything. I thought she was on Desperate Housewives, but I feel sorry for her. I just do. It's a tough thing, and it's a thing that you can't. It's hard to do a dry run. What you said about setting up
Practice.
actual places, that is a great idea, but it is extremely difficult to. I just remember from when I used to work in the elections all the time. You don't do it for 2 years and you forget how to set up the machines.
right.
Right,
It's
that's
not
true.
it's not because you're old. It's just you haven't done this until
Yeah.
now. Then you have a runoff in 60 days.
And then
Okay,
it's,
boom,
okay,
boom,
yeah, I remember this, yeah.
But
My mother is so mad at me because I told her if she used her cell phone at least 3 times a day, she'd know how to use it the next
Exactly.
time she went.
Exactly.
And she's furious with me. I don't need to use it 3 times a day.
Right.
Why would I do that?
Right.
Anyway.
Exactly.
It's the same
Yeah.
thing. It's
Yeah.
the same
The
thing.
more you do it.
So
Yeah.
you're going to
And
have
so
to
in
get out your voting
elections-
machine.
yeah, in elections, you just don't do
Right,
it very
right.
often,
Yeah.
and you don't, it has to
Exactly.
be right. And
Well, the only thing that really irritated me is when I saw that first press conference and it was like, don't ask me any questions. I'll tell you the information whenever I've got the information. And it's like, whoa, remember, you're still working for
Yeah.
we the people.
Exactly.
And let's just kind of watch the attitude. I mean, I can understand the
Okay.
frustration and everything.
So we the people, I do understand her frustration because I will tell you that this year, even the candidates had shorter tempers, I think. I mean, we handled it fine, but,
Yeah.
just in general, they had shorter tempers, not with us specifically, just in general.
just in general.
And I think that's crazy. They don't need to have short tempers. They don't. Well, I mean, they can't.
No.
You can't think if you're mad. You
Yeah.
can't think logically.
Right, exactly.
You can't think about what you would do if you're mad.
Well,
and so
and this year too, I will say this about the election. With everything felt rushed because of the discussions about, first of all, the
Redistricting.
Democrats
Yeah, sure.
leaving, and then the talks of redistricting, and then when are we going to vote, and how is this going to play out, and what time are we going to know? And then it was like, wham, this is what we're going to do, and it's going to be the first cycle, and y'all better get on the ball because you've got no time to prepare.
Right.
And, you look at some of candidates, especially that had decided early on that they were voting and then, or that they were going to
were
run.
running.
And then it was like, oh, wait, now I'm in a new district or I'm in a
Yeah.
new precinct
Sure.
or what the heck's going on? And so I get it. And I do kind of feel for Isabel, and I'm going to say that right now. She didn't have to have the attitude, though. Didn't
No,
have
that's
that very
true.
much.
That's true.
But it did seem like a very
I will-
rushed kind of situation this year, which made everything a lot more
I
challenging.
will say that I think in general, women who are in public service positions, whether they're elected or appointed or whatever, we need to let go of the arrogance and just let people fire their questions, sit there and shake your head, smile, and then say, okay, now we'll start at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then tell the story. Whatever it is, I think if
Because that
everybody
doesn't sound
does it-
sexist at all.
Right.
Well, no, because I think the world is a tiny bit sexist, and so I think they need to not stand
But
up
why
there
do
and
they-
be arrogant.
But why do they expect women to be the voice of reason? Sorry,
I
that was
wasn't
funny.
even saying that. What I was saying was, I think that when women stand up and just start off being catty, it gives other women a bad name.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the
Number
same thing
one.
when men get up there
Yeah,
and start
yeah,
acting like
but-
they.
But
run
I'm
the
not a
place, yeah.
man, so I'm thinking about Miss Longoria and other people that we know that have had the issues that you just don't get anywhere by being arrogant. You just have to breathe and walk through it.
Breathe and walk through it, and that is your message for the day, folks.
Uh-huh.
Breathe and walk through
Did you
it.
do yoga this morning?
I did. That was actually Christy that did yoga. I just breathed deeply
And walked through some stuff.
Yeah, I didn't kill anybody.
Right.
That was my goal. Get
Yep.
through the morning without
Yep.
killing somebody.
Well, the only person
The
that I've
afternoon is
killed
gonna
was
be another
myself.
situation,
I know,
so.
because it is that wonderful time of the week. But you know what? We've officially made it through hump hour of hump day this
day
week.
of
So
hump
here,
week.
cheers to that.
Cheers.
Even
Ding,
though
ding.
we did dry class, because it's one more week post election, and I think it's still going to be some interesting things come out. And of course, we have the runoff elections that are going on, and make sure if
Wrap
you
it
haven't
up.
checked out mctx.org/election, you can find out everybody that's in a runoff. You can see your sample runoff ballot. You can
Right.
find your days. You can find your voting times, and just make a concerted effort to do your research and make a point.
And
sure.
if you're hungry, City of Conroe elections are coming up too. Sweet. So there's going to be, and there's
Absolutely.
several hot races in there. So
There's going to be, yes, and it's
Yeah.
important for the direction of Conroe, and we see things in the evolution that we've had, and to make those decisions and put people in place that are going to help us make those decisions. And
I
lead
have a
us
whole
into
lecture
whole
about the
road.
difference in the city and the stuff. I'm gonna save till later about how important city elections are.
I know, and people just don't always realize it. But anyway, Holly, thank you so much for being
Thank you
with
for
us
the invite.
today.
We love you.
It's
and
always
you know
so
that,
fun.
and we love having
It's
you
good.
here.
Good to
and-
be here anytime.
I know.
I'm happy.
And so make sure that you're marking your calendar every Wednesday at noon for Toast of the Town with Christy and Mel right here on Lone Star Community Radio. You can also listen to 104.5 and 106.1 FM if you are in Conroe proper. You can also watch our podcast on YouTube, and you can also find us on irlonestar.com. And of course, you can also like and follow the Moxie Facebook page, which is Moxie Innovative. Very easy to find, not so easy to spell, but it usually self-populates, so it's all good.
It does.
Anyway, Holly, thanks so much for being with us today. We will look forward to next week.
Yeah.
Spring break. Woo!
Woo.
Absolutely.
I know. You can listen when you're in New York.
I will.
Anyway, cheers to you guys. Y'all make it a great week.